Hi, welcome back to our YouTube channel, GMDC Nelson Mandela University. This is another video on CAPS Mathematics Grade 12 and the topic statistics. And here in this video, we're looking at OGIVES, histograms, and frequency polygons. So let's start the topic statistics, and specifically we're going to look at OGIVES, histograms, and frequency polygons. In the next slide, we'll show you actually the contents of this particular video. Let's see what we're going to do exactly. First of all, we're going to have just an overview of frequency distributions and frequency tables. Then I'm going to look at histograms, frequency polygons, and OGIVES. And then we're going to do some application problems relating to the above. And then, as usual with all the videos, there's always an exercise worksheet. So let's start with this unit here. We're going to do an overview of the frequency distributions, right, of grouped univariate data. In this video, we're going to focus only on univariate data. In other words, there's only one variable. There are two types of data here. We're going to have the ungrouped data, and ungrouped data can be displayed visually using the following. We can have it using pie charts, or you can represent it using bar charts, or you can represent it using line graphs, and we can also use the box and whisker plots, right? Now, with univariate data, we also have that the data can be grouped, and they can be displayed using the following three methods. We're going to show you how to do histograms, then we're going to show you how to draw frequency polygons, and then we're going to have OGIVES, or cumulative frequency curves. Now, let's look at the grouped univariate data, in other words, data with only one variable. Let's consider the ages of 100 individuals, and you can see there's 100 individuals, and it's quite busy looking at it, right? Now we can actually group the data, right? There are 100, and we look at there, we have 20s, ages in the 20s, and the 30s, and the 40s, and the 50s, and the 60s, and the 70s. So we can group them in 20s and the 30s. You see there's the group from 20 to 30, and from 30 to 40, and from 40 to 50, 50 to 60, and 60 to 70. And if we count how many 20 to 30s there are 18 ages there. 30 to 40 there are 23, 40 to 50 there are 26, and you see 50 to 60, the 60 is included here, not there, that's 19, and then from 60 to 17 there are 14. And if we add up those frequencies, 100, right? What does this mean? There are 18 elements here within this interval from 50 to 70. We refer to this as an interval, or we also refer to it as a class. Okay, so there we have 18, and in this interval from 30 to 40, with the 40 included and the 30 excluded, that's 23. And the sum of the frequencies there would be 100. Now we want to look at how do we calculate the mean of grouped univariate data. Let's consider the same frequency table that we have there. There's the intervals, and there's so there are 18 of these. See, now we don't know which of those 100 numbers are just 18 between 20 and 30. So we need a representative here, right? And what would be the advisable representative there? That's right, the middle number, or the midpoint. So we're going to calculate here. As you can see, this is the way we're going to do it. We'll have to find the midpoint, and each of those values, there are 18, so it's 18 times that midpoint, 23 times that midpoint, 26 times that midpoint, 19 times that midpoint, 14 times that midpoint. And once we have the product, we're going to find the sum, and then we divide it by the total number of frequencies there. So let's create a column here where we're going to calculate the midpoints. How do we get the midpoints? Middle between 20 and 30. That's right, it's 20 plus 30 divided by 2, 30 plus 40 divided by 2, etc. And if we do those calculations, that one there is 25, 35, 45, 55, and 65. You can see there it jumps in. There's a difference of 10, 10, 10. And we can actually see the class width 30 minus 20 is 10. 40 minus 30 is 10. So now next, so once we have the midpoints, we have to find the product with the corresponding frequency. So what will that be? That will be 18 times 25, 23 times 20, 35, 26 times 45, 19 times 55. And then we have to find the product of that. So there's the products. There you can see there we've got the products there. And if we find now next we need to find the sum. So we can total that, and that gives us 4,380. We also know the sum of the frequencies that was given to us, and that is 100. Now we're ready to start to calculate it. So it's the sum of the product divided by the number of data points, and that gives us 43,8. Now here's an example for you to try. You can pause the video. There's some intervals given. I've given you some nice numbers, some cosmetic numbers, just for you to get used to the method of finding the mean. No decimals here. So there's the intervals there. So you have to calculate your midpoint. And once you get the midpoint, you find the product. And then after the product, you need to find the sum. Once you have the sum, you can substitute and you can calculate the mean. So just pause, and I think 3 minutes should be more than enough for this. Now let's look at the solution here. So you can see that there's your midpoints, and there's your products, and then you find the sum of the frequencies and the sum of the products, and then you just substitute. Easy. 250 divided by 10. No calculator. Embarrassing if you do that with a calculator. That's 25. And therefore the mean for the group data here is 25. We're going to look at another representation of grouped univariate data. In this case, we're going to look at the histograms. So first of all, it's going to be grouped univariate data, and we're going to look at histograms, and this is what the histograms is going to look like. So let's see. Let's take some group data. Again, we take the same example. We've got ages, right? We're going to just represent this now with a histogram. There's the frequencies, and what do we need to represent this, right? So first of all, we need the values on the x-axis, so we'll have to represent if you want, there's our frequency table. See the table there? There's the intervals, the frequencies. You just need the intervals, and you don't need anything else but the intervals and the corresponding frequencies. We're going to need the intervals. In other words, these values here are the lower bounds. We need to have that, and then we need to use those are the upper bound values, right? And as you can see there's the lower bound. I've color coded them, and then we're going to just to understand the group data, that's the width of the interval. From 30 subtract 20 is 10, or even 40 subtract 30 is 10. So the width there is 10. So that's the class width, and the class width we can see there, we can one way to calculate it. 30 subtract 20 is 10, right? Now we're going to represent this on a histogram, as a histogram. Let's put our table there again. You can see it's group data, there's intervals and frequencies. Now there's my grid, right? So on my horizontal axis, I'll put my ages, right? So the ages is going to go there. But I now need to make provision for 20, 30, 30, 40. So let's count in tens. There's my scale. And then on the vertical, I'm going to have my frequency. And the maximum number there is 26. So I need to go at least up to 30. So let's count there in. That's correct. You can count in fives. Okay, so that it fits nicely there. Now we need to plot the points there. So in other words, now from 20 to 30, right? In that interval, so let's see, there's 20 to 30 must go with 18. So I do that, you can see there, between 20 and 30, that matches with 18. So I draw a little bar there, and the same there from between 30 and 40, there's 23, and between 40 and 50, there's 26, and then the next one is 19, and the next one there we can get between 60 and 70, that's 14. Right, now we're going to represent these by vertical bars. So that's the first one, that's the second one, So it's bars that vertical bars that we're going to use here. And there's the fourth vertical bar, and that's that one. And this is a histogram. Okay, don't get confused with a histogram and a bar chart. You can see there's no gaps between the bars. In the case of a bar chart, there'll be gaps in between, right? So this is the histogram. So we need to have the intervals, the lower bounds and the upper bounds, and between the lower and the upper you can draw your plot the corresponding frequency there. And this is our histogram. Now we're going to look at another representation of univariate data, and this is known as frequency polygons, right? So we're going to represent the frequencies, but we're going to represent it as a polygon. What's a polygon? That's a figure with a closed figure with a number of sides. Again, we're going to look at grouped univariate data, frequency polygons, and this is what a frequency polygon is going to look like. The polygon is this red shape there. There's the polygon, right? And at the back there we've got a histogram. So that's going to actually show you the relationship between the histogram and the frequency polygon. So let's start. There's our group data, and again there we've got our intervals and we've got our frequency. But to draw a frequency polygon, we need another set of values, and that is the midpoint. So we need to find the midpoints of the intervals there. And what would those midpoints be? Quite easy, right? So in this case here, we're going to use a frequency table, but we need another set of values. Those are the midpoints. So I need to have my midpoints, because I'm going to use my midpoints and associate it with the frequencies, right? And that will help us to get a frequency polygon. Let's go to the next slide and see. Let's see how we can represent a frequency polygon. What I'm going to do here is, let's take the histogram that we plotted previously, because we'd like to show you how the histogram and the frequency polygon are related to each other. That is our group data. Now for the frequency polygon, as we said, we need the midpoints. So we plot the midpoint 25 with 18. As you can see, there's the 25 and it goes with 18. And the same there, we'll have 35, which will go with, there's 35 with 23. And then the next one is going to be 45 with 26. And the next one is going to be 55 with 19. And the last one there would be 65 with 14. Okay. But we also need to have, because of the polygon, we need to have a point on the horizontal axis there. So we just take the interval before 20 to 30, which would be from 10 to 20. So from 10 to 20, I find that midpoint, so I need to anchor it there. And then I have from between 70 and 80, I also need to have there. Now we can join those points with straight edges. See, there's it, and this shape that I have there is the frequency polygon, right? So you can see here, there's the bars of the histogram, and that point there is in the middle of the bar. Let's just take the histogram away, and this that I have there, that is now my frequency polygon. Next, we're going to look at another representation of grouped univariate data, and actually how we can represent cumulative frequency table data. And we're going to have the OGIVE, or it's also known as the cumulative frequency curve. Now we're going to look at how we calculate cumulative frequencies. If you look at the word cumulative, it means accumulate, it's adding. So when you start with 5 and then you get another 10, so now you have 15. Then you get another 20, then 15 plus 20. So let's look at this here. There we've got our interval, and there we've got our frequencies. So first of all, we start off with 5, right? And then we take that 5 and we'll add it to the 10, which gives us 15. Okay? Then we take that 15, add it to the 25. Then we get our answer. And then we take that with 15 and we get an answer. Then we take that answer with 5. Right? So let's just follow that now. Can you see? That's 5 plus 10, which is 15. 15 plus 25, which is 40. 40 plus 15, which is 55. 55 plus 5, which is 60. And now if you just do the calculations, and there's our cumulative frequency. You can follow that again. We start with 5. 5 plus 10 gives me 15. 15 plus 25, which is 40. 40 plus 15, which is 55. 55 plus 5 is 60. Now notice here, if you had a 60 there and a 60 there, then you know you've calculated your cumulative frequencies correctly. Now we want to represent these cumulative frequencies, and the graph that we get is referred to as an OGIVE, or we also refer to it as a cumulative frequency curve, right? What are we going to need? On our horizontal axis, we will plot the upper limits. You see, these are the upper limits. And then on the vertical axis, we're going to plot the cumulative frequencies, right? So it's the upper bounds or the upper limits on the horizontal axis, and then the cumulative frequencies on the y-axis. So let's look at that. There I've got my table. So there I've got my, there's my upper limits, and there's my cumulative frequencies. Okay, so there I have my axis. So my upper limit is going to be part of my horizontal axis, and my cumulative frequencies, I will use that for my vertical axis. So that's what we always do when we plot a OGIVE or cumulative frequency curve. Now if I look at my upper limits 30, 40, 50, so I must make provision for that. So I can see there's my, I have a width of 10, so let's have starting with 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. And there with the cumulative frequency, the value, the maximum there is 30. So I must make at least provision for the 30. So I can count in fives, and that's my scale there. Now, the only thing we need to do is plot 30 with 3. So let's see, there's 30 with 3. You see 30 with 3. Then 40 with 11, and 50 with 17, and 60 with 26, and 70 with 30. Okay. Now I also need to get a point on the horizontal axis. Now then I just take the, if there was a upper bound before 30, that will be 20. So there at 20 I'll plot a point. And then once I get the points, I will join the curve, right? But I need to fix it on the horizontal axis, so I use 20 and I do that, right? So there's my cumulative frequency curve there. Note, we have our upper bounds on the horizontal and my cumulative frequency on the vertical axis there. We can draw a much smoother curve. You see, I can remove that, just try to draw it a little bit smoother, but you can leave it there with the straight lines as well. Okay, and there's my cumulative frequency curve, right? So I just tied it up by drawing a smooth curve instead of using straight edges there. Now we can also use our OGIVE to read off the quartiles. And what are the quartiles? That's correct. It's the median, which is the 50%, and then the lower quartile, which is 25%, and the upper quartile, which is 75%. So let's see how we do that. So first of all, if we want to get the first quartile is 25%. So 25% of what? 25% of my total frequencies. So that is 25% of 30. That is 7,5. Let's locate 7,5. There's 7,5. I go towards my OGIVE curve, right? And I take the reading on the horizontal axis. You see, there's my reading. And that reading there is 38, right? Let's remove that. Now, let's take my median. What is the median? Median is 50%. 50% of the 30. That's exactly 15. There's the 15. I go to the curve and I take the reading. There's the reading, and that reading is approximately 40, close to 50. Let's make it 48. Okay, let's take that one away. Now let's have the upper quartile. or the third quartile, that is 75%. So 75% of the 30, that's 22,5. Let's look at there's 22,5. We go to the OGIVE, we go down to the horizontal axis, and I have to take the reading there. That reading looks like right in the middle. So let's just say it is 55. And so that's how we can read off the quartiles from a OGIVE curve there. Okay. Now next we're going to do some applications, and this is now an application of all the concepts we did in the previous two units. So let's take an example. There's a frequency table, and let's see what the context here is. This is the time spent daily viewing YouTube videos by a number of learners, right? So there's a number of learners. So there are some of the clips that are between 20 and 40, and some between 40 and 60, and that's the number of learners who view those particular clips, right? So there's my univariate grouped data. Let's see what questions we want. So we want to determine the modal class. We're going to look at that. Then we want to get the approximate mean time spent viewing. Then we want to complete the frequency table. In other words, the cumulative frequency we need to include. And then we're going to draw an OGIVE for the data. And then we're going to determine the median from that OGIVE there, right? So let's look at it here. There's my frequency table. So the first thing, identify modal. Modal is the most. So which viewing time occurs the most there? If we follow there, we can see 10 is the highest number of learners, and that goes with from between 80 and 100. So the modal class there, I can't say the exact mode, but I can get the interval where we'll find the mode, and that is between 80 and 100, and that is the modal class. Okay. Next, we want to determine the approximate mean. So you know there are 7 values, and you need to find that's correct, we'll have to find the midpoint. So I need to create a column, and we find the midpoint between 20 and 40, which is 30. So we calculate all the midpoints. Once we get the midpoints, we need to find the product. 7 times 3 is 210, 50 times 60, 70 times 8, 90, etc. Right? So we find the midpoints and the products, and once we get that, we need to find the sum. So we find the sum of the products, that is 2,410, and the total number there of the frequencies there is 35. And if we calculate that, that gives us 70 there. Okay. So that is the approximate mean, 70. Then let's look at the third question here. Now we want to complete the cumulative frequency. So I need to calculate the cumulative frequency. So let's create a column first. There's our column. So we first all have to add the 7, and then 7 plus 6, and then 13 plus 8, and then 21 plus 10, and 31 times 4. And you can check that 35 is in fact the sum of the total number of learners. So there's my cumulative frequency table. Okay. Now we want to use that to draw an OGIVE. So the OGIVE needs the cumulative frequency. And what does it need? It needs the upper limits. So I have to plot the upper limits on my X horizontal axis and the cumulative frequency there, right? So let's get the grid. So there's my grid. And I've got the scale there. So here I'm going to have the horizontal is the time in minutes, and the vertical is my cumulative frequency, the number of learners there. So we'll just have to plot the points. So we just plot all the points, you see. And then once we get the points, we need to join them. But I need to anchor it on the horizontal axis. So there I've got 60, 40, so I go to 20 and I anchor it there, and that is my OGIVE that I've drawn there. Okay. Now we want to use the OGIVE to determine the median. What is median? Median is 50%. 50% of the total number of frequencies. And what is 50% of 35? That's correct. It's 17,5. So let's locate 17,5. Go to the OGIVE, go down, and that reading looks like somewhere in the middle. Remember, it's approximate, so we can get the median there, which is about 70. Okay, so that is how we can. There are some applications relating to the OGIVE curve and the frequency table there. Let's look at the second example. In this example here, we've got the height of learners measured, and this measured in meters. And we've got the shortest learner is 1,39 meters, and the tallest one is 2,2, quite tall. And then we've got the heights represented in a histogram. So we give you the details in a histogram there. Now we want the range of the data, then the cumulative frequency column. We have to draw an OGIVE, we have to calculate the median, and we also want to get the 5-number summary. So let's see what we can get here. Let's do each one. So what is the range? The range is the difference between the maximum and the minimum. And if we subtract the minimum from the maximum, the range is 0,82 meters. Then next we want to complete the cumulative frequency table. So there's my, I can see there between 1,3 and 1,5, I've got 24. So there's my 24. And then between 1,5, so I first get all my intervals. There's my first interval, my second interval, my third interval, my fourth, and my fifth. And there I've got the corresponding frequencies, 24, 71, 38, 23. There I populated there. And if I get the total, I see the total is 160. How do we get the cumulative frequencies? 24 goes there. 24 plus 71 is 95. 95 plus 38 is 133. 133 plus 23 is 156. 156 plus 4 is 160. And notice if you get a 160 there and a 160 there, then you definitely have calculated your cumulative frequency correctly. Okay. Now let's look at the third example. Now we want an OGIVE. What do we need for the OGIVE? That's correct. We need the upper limits and we need the cumulative frequency. Upper limits on my horizontal, cumulative frequency on my vertical, right? So let's just get my grid. So there I've got 1,3, 1,5, 1,7, 1,9, 2,1, 2,3. And the 160, so I must make provision to go up to, at least we count in 25s, so I can make provision for the 160. And now if we plot those points, there's my height in meters and cumulative frequency. We plot the points, right? There's all our points that we've plotted, and then we join them, right? I join the points nicely there. It looks nice and smooth there. And I need to anchor it on the horizontal, so there's 1.5. So the upper limit before that would be 1.3. So I anchor it at 1.3. And there's my cumulative, my OGIVE curve, or also known as the cumulative frequency curve there. Okay. Let's see what we want to calculate here. The median. What is median? Median is 50%. 50% of the total number of learners. 50% of 160, you don't even need a calculator for that, that's 80. I go to the OGIVE, go down, I take a reading, it's before 1,7, so let's say it's 1,65, right? Now we want the 5-number summary. What's the 5-number summary? That's right, minimum, quartile 1, medium, quartile 3, and maximum. The minimum and maximum that was provided, given to us before, the median we just calculated. The minimum and the maximum was given. Now, how do I get quartile 1? Quartile 1 is 25%. 25% of 160 is 40. I go to my graph. I take the reading on the X. And that reading there is bigger than 1.5. Let's make it 1,55. Right? Or any estimation that you can use there. For the upper quartile, I need 75% of 160, which is 120. At 120, I go to the OGIVE curve. I take the reading down there. And that one there is before, smaller than 1,9. So let's say approximately 1,8, right? You can round it off as long as you get it as close. And there we calculate the 5-number summary. Now, as usual, there's an exercise worksheet. And this exercise worksheet, I've taken examples from external DBE question papers. Just look at them here. In the first one, comes from the November 2014. I've adapted it slightly. This one provides you with a histogram. You have to identify the modal class. Then you have to complete the frequency column, right? Draw an OGIVE, and then they have a question there that you have to estimate the number of speeding fines issued to the motorists there. Okay, you have to take a reading from your OGIVE. Then the second question comes from February 2016. There's a frequency table. There we have to calculate the mean, draw a cumulative frequency graph. Then there's an application that we have to do there. And then we also have to calculate the median there as well. Okay. Then let's look at the third question. Comes from February 2017. Here they give us an OGIVE. So the OGIVE is drawn and they give you a frequency table there. But you can see there are two values that are not known. There's an A for the first interval. The frequency is not known. And for the fourth interval, the frequency is also not provided. So first of all, how many learners visited the tuck shop? So you should get that from your OGIVE. Then they want to calculate the values of A and B, right? And then we must estimate learners who spend at least 45. So you can take the reading from your OGIVE. And then we want the 75th percentile. Which one is that? That's correct. It's another way of asking you for the upper quartile. And then we want you to calculate the interquartile range. I hope you enjoyed the video. There are other videos on grade 12 CAPS mathematics that have been uploaded to the YouTube channel. Go to our YouTube channel, GMMDC NMU, and please subscribe to our channel, then you can always get the latest videos. Also, reminder, the solutions to all the exercises of the videos have also been uploaded. Thank you.